You hand over your phone to a stranger on the train so they can hold your seat while you buy a ticket. And you do it without a second thought. You would not hand that same phone to your own brother without a flicker of hesitation. And that gap, that strange inversion of caution, is the glitch we are going to open today. I want you to sit with the absurdity of it for a moment, because it is genuinely absurd when you let it surface. You have decades of data on your sibling. You know their tells, their moods, their small dishonesties. You know exactly when they are lying to you and when they are just tired. The stranger on the train has given you nothing but a nod. No history, no track record, just a face that looked at you for half a second and seemed fine. Yet you trusted the stranger with your belongings, your time, and your personal space, while your brother gets a suspicious squint. You have lived this. Everyone has lived this. And almost nobody stops to ask why the machinery of trust points outward when it should point inward. Here is what changes everything. The part of you that decides who to trust may not be the part of you that knows yourself at all. There is a quiet edit happening behind your conscious choices, a filter that reroutes your confidence toward the unfamiliar and away from the familiar, and you have never once seen it work. By the time we are done, you will understand why your own voice gets muted when a stranger speaks and why your history gets overwritten so easily. You will see the exact circuit that does it, and you might catch it in the act the next time your hand reaches for a stranger's advice over your own memory. But before we go anywhere near the machinery, I need you to notice how common this is, because the first mistake everyone makes is assuming they are immune. You are not immune. You are a walking demonstration of the effect, and you have been your whole life. Think about the last time you chose a restaurant based on a review from someone you will never meet while ignoring the meal you already knew you loved. Think about the last time you asked a stranger for directions instead of trusting your own sense of where you were going, even when you were pretty sure you had it. That is not politeness. That is not humility. That is a perceptual shortcut firing exactly as designed, and you felt it as a smooth, natural decision, which is precisely the problem. The glitch does not announce itself. It wears the costume of your own good judgment. So let us ask the question that anchors everything we are about to uncover. Why does the brain hand authority to the unfamiliar? Why would a system built to keep you safe outsource its confidence to someone who knows nothing about you? And more unsettling yet, why does it do this most aggressively precisely when your own knowledge is sitting right there, ready to be used? Somewhere in your skull, there is a switch that flips trust toward the stranger, and it flips automatically, without your permission. Finding that switch, tracing its wiring, and watching it fire in real time is what the next part of this descent is for. Because here is the part most people miss. The stranger is not the one making the decision. They are just a trigger. The real action happens inside your own editing room, where your history gets revised to make room for a face you met 40 seconds ago. You just watched your own editing room at work in real time, revising your history to make space for someone you met less than a minute ago. That room is real. It runs silently, and I'm mapping it piece by piece. Subscribe to walk deeper into your own wiring, because what comes next reveals a switch that flips trust before you even know it happened. Drop the word edited in the comments if you have ever felt your own judgment dissolve around a stranger's advice. And once you see that room, you will never look at a single recommendation, a single review, or a single nod from a stranger the same way again. So let us start with the surface answer, the one we all give when we bother to justify this behavior at all. Most people say they trust strangers because there is safety in numbers, because most people are decent, because it would be exhausting to treat every new face as a threat. That is a common sense explanation. It sounds reasonable, it feels reasonable, and it is almost entirely wrong as a description of what is actually happening. Because if you were truly weighing the risk, you would trust the person you know. The data points are on your side. The history is on your side. Your brother has never once robbed you. The stranger could be anyone. The rational calculation ends in exactly one place, and it is not the place your behavior actually goes. So the comfortable story fails the moment you press on it. And that is the first crack, the anomaly that does not fit. Here is a stranger giving you identical information to the information already in your head. Same words, same facts, same conclusion. And yet, somehow, when the stranger says it, the statement feels heavier. It feels more real. It acquires a weight your own thought never had. You do not notice the swap because it happened in less than a blink. The stranger speaks and your internal record quietly steps aside. That is not social proof doing its gentle work. That is an active overwrite, and the signal to investigate is right there in your hands. Two sources, identical content. One is you, one is a stranger, and your brain just voted against you. Why would it do that? Here's where we begin to peel the first layer, and I promise you, the exposed surface is not what you expect. The brain runs on shortcuts, and one of the oldest shortcuts in the book is a preference for things that feel familiar, even when they are not true. A face you have never seen can still trigger the feeling of familiarity if it resembles faces you have trusted before. You do not recognize the pattern. You just feel a subtle ease, a small warmth, the sensation of something known, and you mistake that sensation for evidence of trustworthiness. There is a well-documented body of work showing that people will extend trust to strangers who resemble people they have trusted in the past. And the reverse holds too. A stranger who resembles someone who betrayed you gets your guard up, even though you have no reason to distrust them. The face is new. The circuit is ancient, and the circuit is running the show without ever telling you it drew the comparison. This is the first layer of the machinery. Your brain is not judging the stranger on their merits. It is scanning them for echoes of your own history. And here is the twist that should make you uneasy. You are the one who knows your history. You are the one holding the file. But the brain does not consult you before it runs the scan. It just runs it, feels the warmth, and hands the stranger your confidence before you have said a word. That shortcut is not a malfunction. It is an efficiency hack that served your ancestors well. The problem is that it is terrible at distinguishing between a real friend and a familiar-looking stranger. When the resemblance is strong enough, the stranger gets treated as a known ally. The trust flows automatically, and your own counter-evidence never gets a chance to speak. So the first layer of the answer is this. You trust the stranger because they wear the face of someone you already trusted, and your pattern-matching machinery cannot tell the difference. That is the surface of the edit. But we are not stopping here because this layer alone does not explain why your own memory gets silenced so completely. That trick was just the surface. Underneath the familiarity shortcut, there is a second mechanism, and this one is darker. Your brain does not just prefer the familiar face, it actively flags your own past judgments as unreliable whenever a social alternative appears. Think about that for a second. The moment another person enters the frame, your internal record gets demoted, treated like a second-class citizen. That second mechanism, the one where your brain demotes your own history to make room for a stranger's opinion, is not a flaw it accidentally picked up. It is a built-in override you never agreed to. On this channel, we map these overrides one by one until you can see the whole hidden control panel. Subscribe to keep walking through the architecture with me because the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. And right now, in the comments, drop the word demoted if you have ever felt your own judgment get silenced by someone you barely knew, because that feeling has a name and we are about to give it one. You watch yourself hesitate. You feel the doubt creep in, and you assume the doubt is rational, that maybe the stranger knows something you do not. But the doubt is not coming from a fair assessment of the evidence. It is being manufactured on the spot, generated by a bias you never consented to. This is where the trust research gets genuinely strange. In controlled settings, people will choose to trust a stranger even when they know the stranger has no better information than they do. The choice is not driven by the stranger's credibility. It is driven by a felt obligation, a pressure to show respect for the other person's character. Researchers describe this as a kind of normative glue. People trust not because they have weighed the odds, but because they feel they should trust that it is the right thing to do. And guilt does the heavy lifting. If you do not trust a stranger, you feel rude. You feel cold. You feel like a bad person. So you hand over the confidence to avoid the discomfort, and the discomfort never even reaches your awareness as a decision point. The stranger does not need to be credible. They just need to be present. And your brain treats their presence as a demand for trust. Now add this to the familiarity shortcut, and you have a compound effect. The stranger feels familiar, so you lean in, and the stranger's presence makes your own judgment feel rude, so you back off. Your own memory is not being evaluated for its accuracy. It is being evaluated for its social cost. And it loses every single time because being right is not worth being rude. This is the uncomfortable truth of the second layer. The stranger is trusted not because they are smarter, but because your own retrieval has been sabotaged by a social script. Your brain has decided, without telling you, that the cost of distrusting a stranger is higher than the cost of being wrong about them. And once that scale is set, your own knowledge will always tip toward the lighter side. It will always lose to the stranger. This is where it gets uncomfortable because you have to ask yourself how many decisions you have handed away on this basis alone. How many times have you deferred to a stranger's opinion even though you had the better information? How many times have you felt that quiet self-doubt and called it humility? That self-doubt was not yours, it was generated. It was a synthetic output of a circuit that values social smoothness over accuracy. And you felt it as deeply personal. You felt it as your own hesitation. That is the signature of the glitch. It always recruits you as its spokesperson, but we are not done peeling. Because underneath the familiarity filter and the self-distrust bias, there is a third mechanism, and this one rewrites the record itself. Here is where the machinery turns genuinely dark, and I want you to steady yourself for this. Your memory is not a recording, it is a reconstruction. Every time you recall an event, your brain does not play back a tape. It rebuilds the scene from fragments, and the rebuilding is subject to edits. Researchers have shown, time and again, that memory can be altered by suggestion, by new information, by the simple act of someone else telling you what happened. There is a well-known body of work on false memory demonstrating that people can be led to remember entire events that never occurred, simply by having them suggested. The classic demonstration involves ordinary people being told about a childhood event that never happened, and a surprising number of them come to believe it, even adding their own details. This is not a rare pathology. This is a feature of how memory works in everyone. The past is not stored. It is recreated on demand, and the recreation is vulnerable to exactly the same social pressure that makes you trust strangers in the first place. So consider what happens when a stranger offers an opinion about something you experience. They are not just adding information, they are introducing an edit. Your brain takes that new information and begins to fold it into the reconstruction of your own past. The stranger's version starts to feel like your version. You do not notice the blending because the editing happens below the level of awareness. You simply find that your memory has changed and you cannot say when. This is the source monitoring error. Your brain mixes up where the information came from, forgetting whether it was your own experience or something you were told. You will swear with total sincerity that you saw something, that you thought it yourself, when in fact the thought was planted by a stranger minutes or days or years ago. And when you later recall it, you will not be lying. You will be accurately reporting a memory that your brain edited without your permission. This is the deepest layer of the answer to our question. You do not trust the stranger because they are right. You trust them because they have editing rights to your history. And once you understand that, the whole edifice of your confidence starts to wobble because you can no longer be sure which of your beliefs are yours. Now, here is the part most people never confront. This is not a rare event that happens in laboratories under controlled conditions. It is happening constantly in every conversation. Every recommendation a stranger gives you is an opportunity for your brain to rewrite your own preferences. Every review you read is a potential edit of your own taste. You walk away from a conversation feeling that you always agreed with the stranger's point, when an hour ago you held the opposite view, and you feel no seam. That absence of a seam is the tell. The edit is clean. The reconstruction is seamless, and you have no way to detect it from the inside. This is the core truth, and I'm going to say it plainly because it deserves to be said plainly. You trust strangers more than yourself because your brain is wired to outsource. That absence of a seam is the proof. If your own convictions can be rewritten without a trace, then confidence is just the afterimage of the last person you listened to. Subscribe to keep walking with me through these hidden architectures, because the next time your mind glitches, you will want to see the code behind it. In the comments, drop the word outsource if there is a moment from your own life, a preference, a fear, a certainty that you now suspect was planted and not originally yours. The unfamiliar is treated as a social imperative. The familiar face triggers an ancient shortcut, and your own memory is constantly being overwritten by external inputs. The result is that your confidence does not reflect the quality of your own knowledge. It reflects who was in the room last and what they said and how familiar their face felt. You are not making a rational choice when you trust a stranger. You are watching a perceptual shortcut complete its work. A shortcut that has been quietly rewriting your history your entire life. And you will never catch it in real time. By the time you notice a belief has changed, the change is already done and the original version is gone. So let us take this out of the laboratory and into your life, because the implications are not abstract. They are running your daily decisions. That investment you made because a friend of a friend seemed confident, that relationship you doubted because a stranger's opinion felt heavier than your own experience, that argument you lost with your partner because you suddenly could not trust your own memory of what happened, all of it, the same circuit. You have argued with someone close to you about an event you were absolutely certain of, only to later discover your memory was wrong. That was not a failed memory. That was a retcon, and the retcon was not your fault. It was a natural consequence of a brain that outsources its history to whoever speaks last with enough social weight. The cost of this mechanism is that your self-knowledge is permanently at risk of being overwritten. And the worst part is, you will never know what was lost. You will never see the original version of the memory. You will never know which of your preferences were truly yours. The edit leaves no record, but there is a whisper of control available if you want it. Once you know the script, you can start to see the stage. You can begin to notice the seam. The next time you feel a stranger's opinion suddenly outweigh your own, you can pause. You can ask whether the doubt you feel is yours or manufactured. You will not always catch it. The machinery is too fast, too smooth, too deeply embedded, but sometimes you will catch it. And that moment is everything, because in that moment, you are no longer just the edited output. You are the editor watching the edit happen. And that is a different position entirely. So here we are at the bottom of the descent, and I want to leave you with a mental image that will not let you go. Picture the stranger's face, the one that triggered your trust this morning. Now picture the edit button, the one your brain pressed before you even noticed the face was there. It is still pressed. It is always pressed. Behind every conversation, every recommendation, every nod, the edit is running, rewriting your history in real time. You will not catch it in the moment. None of us do. But maybe, just maybe, you will start to feel the weight of your own beliefs and wonder which ones you actually chose. And when you do, you will have found the real glitch, not the trust in strangers, the quiet surrender of your own history to a voice you met in passing. That is the edit today, and there will be another one tomorrow. The only difference is, now you know the button exists.